Hi, everybody. I wanted to pop on and have a really quick conversation with you about how your experience might actually be making you a bad leader. So it sounds counterintuitive, right? You think I've had all this experience, I've done all these things, and surely that's going to help me in the business that I'm building or whatever entrepreneurial journey that you're on. But actually, sometimes that experience, that stuff we've done, can actually trip us up because we, as everyday people, every single one of us experience this. We've been through things. We've had jobs, we've engaged with certain people, we've had life experiences. And what that does is that creates bias within us. And when we have a bias, it means that we can really easily start to make assumptions and think that we know stuff about other people. So we can start to think, oh, I know people who worked at that business, so I know that those people are normally like this. I know people who've used that system, and those people can usually do this. But we all know the old saying about assumptions make an ass out of you and me. Well, it absolutely comes true when it comes to leadership. And assumptions and your personal bias, they can play out in two big ways when it comes to leading, growing teams and growing your business. And that is when you're recruiting new people and when you're managing people. So in the recruitment process, what often happens is that because we're often in a hurry, so pretty much we're always recruiting when we're stressed, we're busy, and we're in a hurry. And often we're feeling a little bit impatient to find the right person. And this experience, this personal bias that we have, often that plays out in when we're looking at CVs or we're looking at applications or we're talking to people and we start to think, oh, I know people like you, or I probably know what you're going to be like. And that can be a real trap. So assumptions when it comes to the exact sort of work somebody's done, the way they've used a system, the way they like to do their job, so how they're going to behave, their preferences, whether they want to work on their own, whether they like working in a team, etc. These are usually the assumptions that we get really wrong when we're recruiting. So the key thing when it comes to recruiting is that we need to understand somebody else's relativity. So we need to understand their experience and the way they've experienced that experience. So, and the best way to find that out is to ask questions. Give me an example of. Tell me about a time when you have. Explain to me a normal day. Tell me the most difficult thing you can do in that program system skill. And the other place we can make really bad assumptions or get really tripped up is when we assume to understand people's motivations. So why they're applying for a job, what they want from their career, and then we go ahead and then we start managing them based on that. So we've come back to recruitment. When it comes to recruiting, the tips, I suppose, to make sure we strip away and those assumptions we might automatically be making is to ask about their relativity, their experience, get them to explain it in their words. First of all, give me an example of, go into detail about how you did this, explain to me a typical day. And then the second thing you can do is bring them into your relativity. So in other words, say to them, I'm going to give you a scenario of a normal day, or this is the way we use our active campaign system, or this is, the Google AdWords that you'd be dealing with is here. These are the typical problems that come up. Now, how would you troubleshoot that? So you're bringing their experience into your relativity, your world, and you're saying, let's do a little scenario and talk about what you do. So you're giving them the opportunity to start to feel, okay, well, based on the things that I've done, how would I actually apply that to my new job? And I suppose when it comes to how to motivate somebody and what sort of career or future path they might want in your business, often we make assumptions about that when we're recruiting as well. And the best way to strip away that assumption is just to ask the question, what do you want from us? What are you hoping to learn here? How's it going to add value to your CV? What does 5 years look like for you? So that's the recruitment piece. And it's not so different when it comes to managing people. So that personal bias we have, those assumptions that we make, they can play out in the way we train somebody. We can assume that they want to be trained the way we want to be trained, or they want to be trained or they're best trained the way somebody else that we think is similar to them likes to be trained. It can come out when we're trying to motivate them, when we're trying to get them to be their best, to do as much as they can. We can make assumptions about that. It can come out, those assumptions can come out when it comes to how to reward somebody. A really common assumption that we make or I see many businesses make, is thinking that you need to reward people based on money. And when you're a small growing business, there's not often a whole bunch of money to go round. And so often we get frightened or worried thinking, well, I can't compete on money. But actually, money isn't usually the biggest motivator for people. So at that interview stage, or if you already passed interview and you've got a team on board, you need to just ask and be like, how can I say thank you when you go beyond the call of duty? What can I do to make you feel really valued? How would you like to celebrate? How can I appreciate you in a way that feels great? So that's all that motivation reward thing. And the other thing we make assumptions on when we're managing people is communication. So we assume that people like to be communicated the way we like to be communicated to, or the way we've been communicated to in our previous experiences. Or we might be making assumptions that just because that big company over there that's really successful, they communicate in a certain way, that's what we should do internally. Whereas actually, the right communication methods comes down to the unique business, the type of working environment you have, how much of it is remote, how much of it is, one-to-one interaction, and then the sort of people you have on the team. Do they digest and do they receive information well in a talking environment? Do they actually receive and digest information better in a reading environment? So are you looking at using online tools like Slack, etc.? So there's heaps of things to think about when it comes to both recruiting and managing your team, but it doesn't need to be tricky. We can keep it really, really simple. And to really, really bring it back is just to think about what are the assumptions that I'm making on a day-to-day basis about my team. And next time you go to recruit, what are the assumptions that I'm making about the CVs that I'm reading, the applications that are coming in, and the people that I'm interviewing and talking to? And if it's the really key skills or the really important things, I call them the must-haves, then you've got to drill into the detail and make sure that any assumption you're making is absolutely correct. Or better still, don't make any assumption. Start with a clean piece of paper and just say, you explain to me exactly what you can do, can't do, have done before in the past, what you find easy, what you find difficult, what you might need to learn. And the other little great tip when it comes to recruiting is say, explain to me back what you think you're going to be doing on the first day, week, first week, first month. So hopefully that's helped. Try to park your personal bias, all the things that you think you know about somebody because of the school they went to or the uni they went to or the businesses they've worked in, and try to also just park any assumptions you're making about the skills that people have, how they like to work, what might motivate them, or what sort of future career might look like for them, and start having open conversations with your team members and start being really open at interview and just start saying, explain to me the basics of what you've done and let's see if it fits in. Because we're truly looking for a mutual fit if you want your business to grow with awesome people. And that's all I've got to say today. So hopefully that's helpful. See you soon.